Hello, everybody. It's Friday. That means it's time for another topic of the week. So, first things first, last week's topic on hidden agendas. A lot of discussion around that, and a lot of people with interesting opinions. Most people seem pretty positive about it. I think that's a good thing. I think they're a fun way to make either just a regular home game more interesting or to, make your tournament more interesting. In fact, I decided that rather than just put out the 30 sort of hidden agendas or whatever that I had written previously, I want to do a full write up around it of how I think they can best be used. So that way there's sort of a pack that's made and there and ready for people. So that's what I've been working on. That's why I didn't just publish it since the last topic. So that'll be coming soon. Something like this takes a little time because I want to get it right because it's an artifact that hopefully then people can utilize. As opposed to me just putting out a list of, 30 things that seem cool. But that'll be coming soon. But I want to turn to this week's topic. On my hobby desk, I'm currently working on a special character, one of my favorite special characters of all time, namely this lady right here. Oop, there you go. She's a super fun special character. I love her. I think she's a beautiful model, one of my favorite. She was great when she was metal, but when they redid her, they really did an amazing job. And she's just fun to paint. Honestly, I think this is the third time I've painted that model, and I've got a lot more teed up. But she's one of my favorite characters because I just love the idea of her more than I've never read any novel where she shows up. Just literally looking at the rules and looking at her character and reading snippets and understanding what she's about. I love the idea. I've always loved, I thought angels were a cool motif. She has that going on. This sort of concept of this salvation, this hero that shows up is kind of cool. It's always a neat idea. And so I'm a big fan of her as a special character, regardless of the fact that I don't really know that much about her. In principle. But I found that it's interesting because I think that what's true for me is that oftentimes the special characters I love or fall in love with are as much about a combination of their aesthetic, their theme, their idea, and some of their story, more than it is like a detailed knowledge of their story, their ins and outs, their wins and their losses. Another good example of this is Thanquol in Age of Sigmar. I love Thanquol. I think he's a fantastic character. I think he's hilarious. I read about him in the End Times and stuff like that. I never really read any of the novels that focused on him before, though. I'm familiar with them because you pick them up through the lore in the Skaven, books and stuff like that. But I always just liked the cut of his jib. He was such a Skaven-y Skaven. Such a Skaven-y Skaven, right? He was sort of the world's perfect version of that, the platonic form of the rat. Power-hungry, brilliant, cowardly, always willing to throw others in the line of fire, and somehow always failing but squeaking out of it by the skin of his literal teeth. And then they made a new model for him, and I liked Thanquol's old model, but I thought the new model was absolutely incredible when he got new. He's riding on new giant 13th version Bone Ripper. I thought was fantastic. So again, it's one of those things where I couldn't tell you a single short story from any of the Thanquol novels. The only time I read a story with him is the End Times. And yet, I absolutely love Thanquol. Again, he's, one of my favorite special characters. I enjoy putting him on the table. I always try to find excuses to put him in armies. I love piloting him. He makes me laugh every time. So I find special characters to be fascinating, why we like them, why we attach to them. And I started to wonder if I'm weird, since I like a lot of these special characters and haven't really read the novels or the stories or things like that to see all that background. Of course I've read some. Some of this stuff permeates into the army books or into the game books or stuff like that, but I've never picked up the novels. I've never had any interest in them. So I want to know, what's your favorite special character and why? What is it that attracts you to special characters? Is it just the aesthetic of the model? By the way, I think that's perfectly good enough. Some of the special character models are often incredible. And so I think if you fall in love with one just because it's a really super sweet model, I don't know if there's anything wrong with that. A good example of a character that I came to enjoy solely because of the story, and I always hated the model, was Vlad in the End Times. Vlad, I would argue, is one of the greatest stories in the end times. Like, he's the greatest arc in the end time. He's one of the protagonists, arguably. And he has this wonderfully compelling, fulfilling story. And I hope he always stays dead, by the way. I don't ever want to see him come back. Some things should be laid to rest and left behind. Some things having a time and a place and an ending is what makes them sort of poetically beautiful to me. And I think Vlad's story is very much that thing. So, my hope is that we can come at these things from different angles, but there's lots of ways to discover them to find that you like them. But I want to know if I'm weird. I want to know why you love the special characters you love. So, that's the topic this week. Special characters, right? Why have you, and this can be in whatever game you happen to be playing or talking about, a lot of games feature them as main protagonists. I've played a lot of Malifaux in my time as well, and obviously named characters are often the masters or the leader of your crew. And in that game as well, even though, because of that, some of them I came to really, really enjoy as characters. So regardless of what it is, what game it is, what draws you to that special character? Is it always the story? Sometimes is it the model? Is it the theme of the thing? Is it their place within the greater narrative of their force or their army or their warband or whatever? What is it that locks them in? There you go. That's the topic this week. As always, drop your response down below, or if you prefer, make a response video. I'll link those down below. As always, you can come back to this video and find not only the link to last week's video with all of those responses, but also anybody who's responded. But as always, appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.